In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 criteria for effective business messages, and then we'll also talk about 2 bonus criteria. So all business messages must be clear, and this means that your audience gets the meaning of your message and doesn't have to try to figure out what it is that you're trying to say. If your audience doesn't understand your message, a couple of different things can happen. They could send you an email, pick up the phone and call you, maybe text you to try to reply and say, hey, what was it that you were trying to say? Or I'm not clear on the meaning of your message. The other possibility is that they could just simply delete your message and ignore it altogether. But either way, if your message is not clear, that means you're going to end up spending more time and then ultimately more money in trying to communicate. So here's an example of an unclear message, and this is a pretty bad example, but take a look at it, read through it, and see if you can figure out what the sender was trying to say. Okay, so the only thing that's really clear about this message is that it's confusing and completely unclear. So you want to make sure that when you're writing your messages, you're rereading them and revising them so that they're as clear as possible. If you can say what you need to say in just a few words, then go ahead and do it so your audience will understand your message as quick as possible. Okay, your messages also have to be complete, and this means that they contain all of the information that your audience needs. Use a checklist and go down through that checklist before you send your message to make sure that everything is there that your audience will need. Your messages also have to be correct, and of course this means spelling, grammar, punctuation, but it also means the data that you include and the information has to be correct as well. The 4th criteria for effective messages are that they save your audience's time. We've already talked about how time equals money in any business. So if you can, again, get your message across in fewer words, you want to go ahead and do that so that your audience will understand your message as quickly as possible, and then they can take the action that you want them to take as quickly as possible. Okay, the 5th criteria for effective business communication is that it builds goodwill. And this means that it's a way of communicating that makes your audience feel confident about your professional abilities, your professional capability. It means that they'll feel good about doing business with you and your company or you and your operation. Okay, so again, just to recap, the 5 criteria for effective business messages are that they're clear, complete, correct, they'll save your audience's time, and then they'll also build goodwill. So the 2 bonus criteria here. One is your messages need to be visually inviting. So if you get a big giant block of text like this in a document or maybe in an email, you are not going to read through it, and neither will your audience. But take a look at this. This is the same exact document, but in this case the writer has used headings, they used bullets, they also use a numbered list here. So now the reader or the audience can navigate through the document and find the information that's most important to them. So think about that when you're writing for business. Okay, and then the very last thing that you want to make sure when you're writing for business is that you're using a friendly, business-like, positive style. Here's an example of some communication from the Plain Language Association International. Just take a minute and read this statement from a travel agent. Okay, so it's clear enough. I mean, I think somebody could understand that, but take a look at this revision. The difference here is that this statement is written more with the audience in mind. It's a little bit friendlier, and it's maybe a little bit more positive. So you want to think about that when you're writing for business, write in a friendly, business-like, positive style. Okay, so those are the criteria that you need to keep in mind when you're writing for business. Next, we're going to talk about some questions that you can ask to make sure that your business communication is effective.